How do you sort out the so-called jargon from real-world practices that work? Do the members of your organization find some business or technology advice utterly confusing? Welcome to Real Talk with Sam Holcman. In this program, we set the record straight, and in terms that business people and technology people can understand. Now, here is your host, Sam Holcman.
Welcome to this edition of Real Talk. I'm Sam Holcman. Thanks for joining me in this broadcast. And this broadcast is about Agentic AI and enterprise architecture. And it's actually a review and a very strong suggestion about an article written on January 22nd, 2026 by, excuse me if I've pronounced the author's name incorrectly, Conrad Shelfott, again, apologies, and Andrew Long in CIO magazine or broadcasts. And the article that they've written is what I'm commenting on from our actual practice. And you can read the article and, of course, make your own review of this. But we're going to suggest through our practice that the article misses the central point. And it has a fatal flaw in its reasoning. It assumes that enterprise data is reliable enough to empower agentic AI, when, for most organizations, it is not. The article reads like a how-to on retooling EA for agentic AI, but it fails to question the quality and the veracity of the information that the agents will act upon. That is not a minor gap. It is a difference between accelerated value creation and accelerated chaos. Let us break this down a bit clearly. The article's framework is built on a shaky premise. The article paints an optimistic path, 180 days to an end-to-end agentic process, but it presupposes that the underlying data landscape is ready to support autonomous decision-making. In reality, most enterprise data is fragmented, stale, duplicated, or misclassified. An Accenture survey results cited 67% expecting transformation, 31% deploying pilots, etc., only reflect executive sentiment, not the validity, completeness, or consistency of the data underpinning those initiatives. When you build automation or reasoning layers on top of questionable inputs, you are not just scaling capability, you are scaling error propagation at machine speed and scale. Data quality requires new standards, is treated as a check-the-box item. The article nods to data quality in one short section, then quickly pivots to integration and architecture, as if acknowledging data efficiency was enough. But the entire premise of agentic AI depends on accurate, contextual, and semantically aligned information. Calling for automated quality monitoring and governance models is not enough. The core challenge is not detecting errors after the fact. It is that enterprises do not trust their data lineage in the first place. If you can't trust the data lineage in the first place, you can't go any further. Without addressing authoritative data sources, business glossaries, and semantic cohesion, any agentic architecture will simply automate garbage faster. Yes, garbage in, garbage out. Now on autopilot. Agentic AI does not eliminate human error. It amplifies it if the input foundation is weak. If a chatbot recommends the wrong product, the risk is reputational. If an autonomous agent changes pricing, deletes a workflow, or updates customer profiles based on flawed data, the risk is existential. And these agents will act without human review. The foundational integrity of their data environments becomes the first architectural priority, not an afterthought. Before building agent tiers and semantic spines, organizations should conduct rigorous data integrity audits and establish trust matrix across their domains. That's what we've done with our clients. Otherwise, agentic AI will simply become a high-speed delivery system of existing inconsistencies. The missed story. Data confidence as the foundation for agentic readiness. The real question CIO should be asking is not, how do you get your enterprise architecture ready for agentic AI? It is, how do you trust your data enough to let AI act on it autonomously? Everything else, API design, orchestration layers, semantic modeling, is secondary until the enterprise can prove that what its systems know is both valid and aligned. That is the missing headline, because until enterprises solve data truth, the promise of agentic AI will remain a theoretical blueprint built on top of digital quicksand. So let's take a look on how we address this. Agentic AI's biggest risk is not architecture, it's the data you can't trust. Everyone's racing to get their enterprise architecture ready for agentic AI. Again, articles like this recent CIO piece paint a checklist picture. Data standards, integration upgrades, semantic layers, agent tiers, but they miss the most important truth. If your data is not trustworthy, none of this matters. Agentic AI does not analyze data like a chatbot. Let me repeat. Agentic AI does not analyze data like a chatbot. It acts on it. That means every inaccuracy, inconsistency, and stale record becomes a live risk that propagates autonomously. As the phrase goes, garbage in, garbage out, but this time on autopilot. Most organizations still cannot answer foundational questions. What data source is authoritative? What is the current state of lineage and semantic consistency? Do we actually trust the inputs these systems will act on? Until those questions are answered, AI-ready architecture is a dangerous illusion. The priority is not building an agent tier, it is validating data truth, establishing continuous governance, and ensuring trust in the enterprise formation spine. The path forward is not faster adoption, it is cleaner, more reliable data that agentic systems can reason and act upon safely, because your data is worthy of autonomy. AI should never be. Agentic AI will expose your architecture, starting with your data. Agentic AI cannot be responsible and be responsibly deployed on top of untrustworthy data. And that is exactly where EACOE 5.0 enterprise architecture perspective flips the current narrative. Architecture is just not about enabling agents. It is about providing the truth of the information agents that need to be acted upon. Most articles about getting enterprise architecture ready for agentic AI rush to talk about agent tiers, semantic spines, and 180-day roadmaps. From an EA 5.0 point of view, that's the wrong starting point. The first question is brutally simple. Can you trust the data you are about to give autonomy to? Agentic AI is not another analytical layer. It acts on your customer, product, financial, and operational data across silos, integrating fronts, middle, back, and office in real time. If the data is incomplete, conflicting, or poorly governing, you are not transforming the enterprise. You're just accelerating bad decisions at machine speed. EACOE EA 5.0 treats architecture as a disciplined decision system, not as a documentation exercise. That means identifying authoritative sources for each critical data domain and eliminating ambiguity at the model level before a single agent is deployed. It's establishing data governance as an operational capability with clear roles, policies, and metrics, not a slide in an AI strategy deck. It's designing the semantic layer from business meaning downward, outcomes, decisions, and constraints, and instead of from tools upwards, APIs, platforms, and vendors. When you do that, agent-friendly integration and an agent tier stop being shiny objects and become natural extensions of a coherent enterprise decision architecture. So, before racing to hit a 180-day milestone For your first end-to-end agentic process, ask a harder question, an EA 5.0 question. Would a competent human looking at the same data your agent will see make the same decision with confidence? If the honest answer is no or I don't know, you do not have an AI problem. You have an architecture and data problem. And an EACOE grade enterprise architecture is where you fix it. So here is our suggestion for a 90-day EA-anchored roadmap you can use with CIOs and sponsors. Day 1 to 30, baseline and truth testing. What's the objective? Establish where data really comes from, how bad or good it is, and whether it can be trusted for autonomous action. Key moves: inventory critical data and its domains for one high-value agentic use case. For example, revenue impacting, customer-facing processes, or something like that. Identify authoritative source of truth per each key entity, customer, product, contract, assets, etc., and map all upstream systems feeding them. Run a hard data quality assessment for those domains: accuracy, completeness, timeliness, consistency, and duplication, using quantitative metrics and sample audits. Document data lineage from capture to consumption, including manual workarounds, spreadsheets, and shadow IT. By day 30, you want a one-page data readiness scorecard for the chosen use case with red, amber, green on quality, lineage, ownership, and accessibility. Moving forward, days 31 to 60. Fix the foundations and govern. What's the objective? Close the worst gaps and prove that governance and quality are operational, not theoretical. What's the key moves here? Define data ownership and stewardship for the scope domains with named people accountable for quality and policy adherence. Implement target fixes, deduplication, basic master reference management, and standardization of key attributes used by the future agent. Stand up data governance for this scope: policies, issue escalation path, change controls for definition, and access controls. Deploy automated quality checks, rules, and anomaly detection on the key pipelines feeding your agentic use case. By day 60, you should be able to show measurable uplift in data quality metrics and an active governance mechanism that catches and corrects issues before they hit downstream consumers. Moving on to day 61 to 90, prove agentic grade readiness. What's the objective here? Demonstrate that an agent can act on this data with bounded risk and explainability. What are the key actions? Define explicit decision boundaries for the candidate agent, what it can change autonomously, what requires human in the loop, and what is prohibited. Build a thin semantic layer or business glossary for this domain. Share definition, relationships, and constraints that an agent or an orchestration layer can rely upon. Run tabletop simulations. Walk through real historical scenarios and ask, if an agent had acted purely on this data, would the decision have been correct and safe? Instrument telemetry and explainability hooks so that every autonomous decision can be tracked back to the data elements and rules that drove it. By day 90, you should be able to make a defensible statement to the C-suite. For this specific use case, our data is known of a certain quality, governed and explainable, and safe enough for constrained agentic automation with clearly defined guardrails. That's the statement you want to make to your C-suite. What makes this proof and not theater? A 90-day roadmap proves readiness when it is use case specific, not enterprise generic. Produces quantitative before-after quality metrics, not just documentation. Establishes ongoing governance and monitoring, not a one-time cleanup. Links directly to your EACOE enterprise architecture method so the same pattern can be replicated across other domains. This is where you can explicitly position EA 5.0 and the EACOE style practice. Architecture as a decision and data trust system, not as a modeling exercise. I truly hope that this particular broadcast is extremely valuable to all audiences. As practitioners, what we try to bring is understanding that data and process is the key to enterprise actions. Since the beginning of automation, you know what we've been doing? Processing data. You know what we're doing now? Data processing. Same things. And the quality issues in data are just getting more elaborate. Please reach out to us at www.eacoe.org. It will be our pleasure to speak with you and help you to the path for Agentic AI. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Talk. Be sure to join your host, Sam Holcman, again for another edition of our program. We'll have more real topics of discussion then.